Welcome to the Pittsburgh Dish. I'm your host, Doug Heilman. How does a loaf of sourdough bread feed your passions for creativity, community, and a little science? Chloe Newman shares her story. What neighborhood spot might make you skip the grocery store and go straight to dinner? Becca Hansborough shares her place. And is salsa the condiment of choice on your table? We get a family recipe for salsa piquin by Dustin Boutilier of 77 Club. All that ahead. Stay tuned. The Pittsburgh Dish is supported by Chef Erika LLC. Visit her Instagram handle at Chef Erika PGH to learn about classes and upcoming workshops hosted at the Hilltop Kitchen in Mount Oliver. Now, on to the show. Well, thank you so much for coming over and for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Doug. It's great to be here.
Would you introduce yourself to our listeners and what you have going on in food right now?
Yes, so my name is Chloe Newman, and I am one of the co-owners and co-founders of Third Space Bakery in Garfield.
Yes. We have interviewed your other co-owners, and we should remind our listeners, Third Space Bakery is located over in the neighborhood of Garfield, right along Penn Avenue. Mm-hmm. What are your current hours right now?
Right now, we are open Thursday through Sunday. We're hoping to open for Wednesday soon,
Ooh,
but not yet.
Yeah.
We'll have people kind of swing by the bakery on occasion and look in the windows on Wednesdays. We're almost there. But on Thursday through Saturday, we are open 8 to 2. Mm-hmm. And then on Sundays, we're open 9 to 2. We just give ourselves and everyone a little break.
Can we specifically talk about your skill set and contribution to the bakery? Because I know Erika Bruce does a lot of pastry. Beth Taylor is doing the classes and some front of the house things. What about you? What did you feel that you brought to the table and are bringing to the table right now?
So I came into this business from another business. My previous business was called Crustworthy, and that was based out of the farmers markets. Primarily the Bloomfield market was our biggest market. And there I did sourdough breads, and I did do some pastries as well. I think sourdough was always my passion within that business, and that's primarily what I brought into Third Space as well. So, we joke, we call me the head bread head. But honestly...
the head bread head?
Head bread head.
I think that needs to be some merch, like a t-shirt.
Right? Yeah. We've got a couple great merch ideas. We're getting there.
Okay, good.
So as head bread head, basically, I'm running the sourdough program, but honestly...
You guys probably have to do it all, though.
Yeah,
right?
There's a lot of crossover between bread, pastry, and even with classes, a lot of the people who work at Third Space Bakery have taught in classes, volunteered in classes, and we've, really focused on more cross-training between all of the workers just so that we can support each other better. It improves our own skill sets.
Right.
Gives us all a better sense of how the bakery is operating and really contributes to the strength of the operation overall. So it's not just like, well, if Chloe's out sick today, I guess we just don't have bread or something.
Yeah, it just can't happen.
Yeah, it's not possible. So we really all do have our hands in a lot of different pies.
I love that. Let's just hit some of the top hitting breads that you guys are making at the bakery. What are some of the best sellers or the ones that you like making the most?
I will say, coming into the business from Crustworthy, I dissolved that business to bring over the assets from that into Third Space Bakery. And similar to how Erika brought in a lot of recipes and Beth brought in a lot of teaching materials, recipes that she had, I also brought in a lot of sourdough bread recipes from there. I would say overall, our top seller is called the house loaf. Oh. And that is, when someone comes in asking for a sourdough, that's what they mean. It's the classic, mild, mostly white flour sourdough. It's a really nice, well-balanced, all-purpose loaf. Not super holy, which is intentional. You're talking about the structure, like the bubbles inside? Exactly. Okay. The crumb, they call it. The crumb. Yeah. Okay. So we like sort of a middle ground crumb just because we like to offer bread that is good for sandwiches, good for toast, maybe a little bit more on the practical side, I like to believe. But this loaf has a really nice crust to it. It's really nice and soft. And again, a very mild flavor. We really want to provide approachable bread Now, that being said, we do also offer something on Fridays and Saturdays called the Baker's Choice.
Oh.
And that is a rotating flavor. There's not a ton of rhyme or reason to what we offer, unless there's a holiday that we're trying to celebrate. But over the past week, for example, we were offering an onion turmeric loaf that was a creation of one of our workers, Nick Webster.
Oh.
And it's a really delicious loaf, and it has a beautiful golden hue from the turmeric. It's got caramelized onions inside and this 50% whole wheat based dough that's got a wonderful whole wheat flavor while still retaining a lot of the soft give that a white flour will give to a loaf.
Oh,
yeah.
Sounds amazing.
It's one of my favorites. It's
Yeah.
really good. After the house loaf, our oat porridge loaf was really popular. Whenever we took that away for a short while to focus on some other breads, there was a bit of an outcry. So we ended up bringing that back.
You heard about it.
Yeah, we did. And then we also make breads for all of our in-house sandwiches. We do a ciabatta for some sandwiches. We do flatbreads. And we also started offering breakfast sandwiches with a house-made English muffin that we worked on for quite a while. And I will say I'm really happy with where it's at now that we're offering it. Yeah.
This English muffin.
The English muffin.
Is this English muffin and some of the other breads you've mentioned, do they all still have a sourdough starter component, or do some of them? I think a lot of folks think that sourdough is just one kind of bread.
Exactly. Yeah. And we do try to educate folks in the nicest way possible. When people do come in asking for a sourdough, we'll say, all of our breads are sourdough based. Everything except for the English muffin. We actually decided, we were testing different recipes and kind of struggling to find the exact flavor profile we wanted.
Yeah.
We wanted it to still taste yeasty and nostalgic, but we love that developed flavor of sourdough. And in the end, we decided, you know what? We like the non-sourdough version better. So let's just not do sourdough.
I love these kinds of trial and error decisions for a business decision, right? You have all been in business. We're just around a 1-year anniversary, right? You opened on 4/12 of 2024.
That's right.
So 4/12/2025 is 1 year.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
It's so funny to look back on pictures of that opening day, cutting the ribbon and just remembering how exciting and terrifying that all was.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
Yeah. So it's really a big deal for us to be hitting this 1-year landmark with a lot of new ideas for what to do next, and just recognize how much the space itself has changed as well. Yeah, we're feeling pretty darn good going into the next year.
Well, I have to say, we're coming into the warmer months of the year. You have this incredible deck that people like to hang out on. I know you've also done some after hours things. So it feels like a community space, like the third space that is not home or work, right? So
exactly,
you guys are getting there.
Yeah. And thank you for mentioning. I mean, we really do want to create a third space for people in this bakery. And a lot of the events that we offer are primarily possible due to the work that Beth Taylor has done, one of the co-owners. I mean, she's just phenomenal at what she does in bringing people together. And these after hours events have been a lot of fun doing them, not quite monthly, but I think every other month right now, being able to bring in local artists and showcase their work, offer some, different styles of food to people, getting to change the space around a bit. Yeah, as we do hit into these warmer months, we have a lot of plans for the summer, being able to offer more things during the week, more regularly. We have some new neighbors as well. Open Road just opened up next to us.
Yes, this is a non-alcoholic bottle shop?
Yeah, bottle shop. And I think they're working on their bar section as well. So that should be opening soon, which I'm really excited about.
I need to stop there. I knew they were up in Allentown before, so they just made that move. Yeah.
So we're excited that they're on that side of us. We have Jim on our other side, where we are often looking over and seeing people working out and getting sweaty. Their doors open, and it's just it's a great feeling. Very energetic and communal.
I want to shout to the gym people, come over and get your carb load either before or after the workout.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have a lot of jokes there, buns and buns. And
there's more merch.
Yep, we're on it.
Chloe, before we get too far away from the food, if somebody hasn't visited the bakery yet and they were to walk in on a Saturday where you guys are fully stocked, what are some of the other great things beyond the bread that I'm going to find in the bakery?
On the savory end, I would say one of my favorite treats Friday through Sunday is the hachapuri. And that is a Georgian cheese flatbread that was developed by Erika. And then the bread base was something that I had on hand.
Ah.
So that was a fun collaboration, a truly special and unique third space treat that we created together. And that just fresh out of the oven is incredible. You know, it comes out, the cheese is bubbling in the center, the edges are crispy, and you mix in this eggy, buttery filling that when it hits the cheese just becomes emulsified into this gooey, delicious mess. And
sounds great.
Yeah. You know, we describe it as like a cheese boat. It's so delicious and filling. On the sweet end, we have a full cake case with cake slices, and we also do offer full cakes as well for sale. Not as much anymore on the retail side, but we get a lot of special orders, so we're focusing more on that end.
So just to clarify, if I want a cake, I'm going to need to order that ahead. If I want a whole cake.
Yes. Yeah. With the amount of staff that we have right now and just in our, just a year in, we do recommend that people, if you would like to order from us, to do it on the early side. We require 7 days pre-order notice.
Yeah. I don't think that's that unusual for a smaller bakery.
I don't think so either. Yeah. But lots of different kinds of cakes. The eclairs are one of my favorites, especially the almond one. Oh my God. Something about it, that combination of the crunchy, sugary almonds on top and then the almond pastry cream in the center. It's so good. We have a variety of different gluten-free and vegan options for folks, a lot of nut-free options. We're a peanut-free facility, just trying to make something for everyone. We know that not all dietary restrictions are possible, but we're pretty excited to offer what we do have. And we really make sure that anything that goes out on the floor is something that we're all in love with.
Yeah. Well, I'll just add, the last time I was there, when you mentioned the gluten-free option, I think this is gluten-free. I had a mini bête noire, which is like a chocolate flourless little cake.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit boozy and it's delicious. And then every time I'm in, you have a huge swath of cookies leading up to the cash register. And there are some really unique flavors. I love the one that's covered in sesame seeds.
Yeah, that's a really fun one. That's our sesame buckwheat cookie.
So good.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up too, because another thing that we try to promote in the bakery is grain diversity, so that not everything that we're making is with, white wheat flour. We really try to incorporate a lot of whole grains as well as things like buckwheat, rye. We do different rotating bread loaves like the Kamut loaf. We do like a whole 100% rye loaf on Sundays only, for example.
Wow.
Things that are a little more difficult to find in Pittsburgh, and that we hope will become more prevalent as people fall more in love with these grains as we have.
I love that. It's like an education through food and sort of expanding your palate. It sparks a question for me on like your suppliers. Like, where do you find some of these ancient grains or the different grains you're using all the time?
We get most of our flours through Frankfurt Farms.
Okay.
And they are so wonderful. I've been working with them since I was working with Crustworthy. They have a lot of regionally sourced, locally milled varieties of wheat, and we get, our buckwheat, our rye from them. And it also has the mill date on the package, which is incredible.
So
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know exactly when it was milled. We do use Frankfurt Farms milling, when they mill the flours themselves. And we also use Small Valley milling, which is out on the other side of PA, but still in PA.
Yeah.
So we are really trying to keep things regional, local as possible. It's just so important for our food economy.
Yeah, so good. And I think just having that diversity, almost commanding it, like saying like, we need diversity, but also in a local region.
Exactly. Grain diversity is just as important as growing, any kind of other agricultural diversity.
Right.
We all know that monocropping has its issues, and the same is true with growing the grains that we, that make up a lot of our diet.
Some folks say, they have, whether it's true celiac disease or just gluten intolerance. Have you had anyone try your products that said they were a little bit more gluten intolerant, but they can eat your stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I worked with Crustworthy at the farmers markets, I had a lot of one-on-one customer interaction. And part of what I loved about working at the farmers market was getting to have those times, where you could kind of step aside from the stall, trying to find something that works for this person. A lot of people who have a gluten sensitivity find that they can digest true sourdough bread without any issues. And that's in part due to the long fermentation that sourdough has, the special microbes that are involved in a wild culture versus just the one strain of yeast that you'll find in commercial baking. So a sourdough culture is made of yeast and bacteria. And the bacteria does a lot to release certain nutrients to us, to break down some of the gluten proteins and make that just a little bit easier for us to digest.
I would also think that, you mentioned about sourcing the grains locally and that they're much more diverse and maybe some of them are more ancient. And these are things that we're not getting in a supermarket monoculture white bread.
Yeah.
So all of that's helping.
And
right?
it is, yeah. I mean, a lot of ancient grains also have lower protein contents to begin with, lower gluten protein contents to begin with. And that does create different kinds of bread. And a part of us experimenting and bringing these new flours to the table is also asking people to kind of accept these new flavors and sometimes also these new appearances of bread, because a lot of people come in wanting or expecting, the large white, I call it the large busty loaf, because it's just it's just marketed that way. And there is value in that, and there is a place for that. But there are also these really hearty, delicious whole grain loaves, or even just, ancient grain loaves that might have a different aesthetic, but have their own value and place on the table. And I think just the more that people can accept this kind of diversity, the better their stomachs will be off. And also the better the grain economy will be.
Yeah. It's funny too, as you were just talking, I was envisioning some of the breads I've had from you. And you mentioned earlier, they make great toast. I love an open-faced sandwich with them because they're hearty. I love that they add flavor to a sandwich or, whatever you're doing with it. If you're going to make a crouton or something, you're getting so much more depth of flavor out of this type of bread.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyone who comes into the bakery and says, "Oh, I don't like rye bread," I tell them to try the 100% rye. Just try it once because it's different. It's, a lot of people also equate rye with that anise kind of, it's the caraway seeds that does it. And our rye doesn't have that. And instead it has this incredible earthy flavor to it.
Chloe, you said you guys use Frankfurt farms for all the grains. I don't know if you've seen this, but Rick Seaback just put a video out for Weatherberry Farm in Avella. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah, I think they're doing incredible work. We haven't gotten to use a ton of their grains, I think in part because they are working such small batch. It's difficult for us to incorporate that into the bakery, but I would like to start using them more.
We have to go on a trip and get some stuff from them.
I would love to. Yeah, honestly, I really want to go and take a field trip and see their operation.
Yeah.
This is Chloe Newman with Third Space Bakery, and you're listening to The Pittsburgh Dish.
I do want to pivot a little bit. Chloe, you mentioned earlier that you had this other business, Crustworthy. You dissolved it and you brought those assets into Third Space. I would love to take a step further back and just ask you where that all got going. What's the origin story of your bread making and this journey?
It all started. I wish I had kind of like an aha moment to say like, this is where it all began. But honestly, I think I was in my mid-20s and I was exploring more kind of a DIY lifestyle. I wanted to start growing my own vegetables, and I was interested in sustainability, and I wanted to see, how back to my roots could I get while living in the city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, self-reliant.
Yes, self-reliant. And I learned about sourdough, and I wasn't specifically a bread baker before then. I loved to bake and I loved to cook. But when I discovered sourdough, it was this really unique type of cooking and baking that I hadn't experienced before, where there's a science and an art to it. And it's interesting because I actually, when I went to school, I got my art degree, but I also was interested in science. And, I came to Pittsburgh intending to study chemistry and visual art at the same time. And I've found sourdough to be a really beautiful marriage of those two worlds where you are working with your hands, you are intuiting and feeling, creating, but you're also measuring and recording. I just kind of fell head over heels for that and started baking sourdough bread at home. I baked a lot of bad bread at first before I understood how it worked. But I still ate it and I still, kept with it. And I took a lot of that frustration and said like, no, I'm going to figure this out. I had a lot of support from friends who would buy loaves from me. And it kind of got to the point where people were requesting bread from me, to buy.
And you're like,
and
what?
I was like, I guess, sure. And sourdough is one of those things where it does make sense to make more at one time because it does take a lot of time to make. It takes about the same amount of time to make one loaf of bread as it does to make 10 loaves of bread. So why not?
Yeah.
Out of a home oven, that's a little difficult. When it got to the point where I was baking like 12 loaves of bread at home, like maybe 1 or 2 loaves in the oven at a time, I was like, okay, something's got to give here. I either need to chill on this part of life or I need to dive into it.
Yeah.
And I decided to dive in. I was actually, at the time, I was working as a pastry assistant at Gluten-Free Goat Bakery.
Okay.
So I was working with gluten-free items and learning a lot from the pastry chef there about how to run a small specialty bakery business. And when I left there, that's when I started Crustworthy. And I just dove into the farmers markets. I started renting out kitchen space from the Bakery Society, which no longer exists.
Oh.
It was a short blip in Pittsburgh's history, but it really gave me a place to do the production that I needed for the farmers markets. I was doing 3 markets a week, which is
my goodness,
absolutely insane.
What year, what time is this?
I think I officially started the business in 2000. 2019 was my first year doing farmers markets.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I remember the next year was my first year doing the Bloomfield market. And that was when COVID, hit. And that was the year that I started building out my garage bakery in my home.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a really, really odd year for everyone. But
the market still kept going most of the time though, right? Because they were outside and people had access to still shop.
Exactly. Yeah, the markets ended up being a lifesaver. I mean, certainly for me, making my career out of it, but also for a space to shop safely, a space to see people, from far away, but to still just feel human and be outside and getting fresh food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're also quite lucky to have that as the format during that time.
Yeah. No, I definitely was very lucky in that. It presented a lot of challenges as well in terms of building out the garage, supply chain. We've heard that forever, but also, just like getting contractors to help me out. And there were a lot of challenges too that COVID presented, but I do recognize that I'm so happy I didn't try to create a brick and mortar in that year.
Yeah. Yeah. So Crustworthy is really successful. I found you through Instagram and the Bloomfield market and had your bread before you linked up with Erika and Beth. And then when did you all start plotting the bakery?
Erika and I were both in the Maker in Residence program at Chatham.
That's right.
That was where we first met. And, we didn't have a ton of chances to really connect there, in part because of the pandemic hitting and things going remote. But I knew when we met, like we had a lot of common interest in the world of baking. And then we actually ended up vending next to each other at the Bloomfield Winters Market.
Yes.
And that was another fortuitous moment.
Yeah.
We got to talking and I was already kind of planning my next steps because I knew I didn't want to continue doing Crustworthy as I was doing it. One woman operation out of my garage, had a lot of benefits, but sustainability wise, I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do forever. And I really missed working with people. And Erika, I had a good feeling. Erika, I loved her products.
Yeah.
Everything that I tasted from her table was so delicious. I loved the fact that she promoted grain diversity and she had all of this experience, professional experience that I really admired. And I just felt like this was someone I wanted to talk to. And we sat down, we had coffee, and I kind of explained what I was thinking. I was interested in this cooperative model. And once she learned what that was, she was interested as well. And whenever Erika agreed that we would try to do this, she said, hey, I've got a friend that I also would really love to work with, and I think she could bring a lot into this. I'm sure this has been said on the podcast before by them, but
I love it. No, I love re-hitting that you all brought these different strengths and angles to what you're all doing right now too.
Yeah. And it was, the teaching kitchen aspect was something I hadn't really considered. I had been teaching classes through Crustworthy, and I wanted to continue that, but I don't think I had imagined that we could be doing 2, sometimes 3 classes a week and really making it a part of our core identity at Third Space Bakery. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
It's also what brings it into that third space model. It's a community building thing. I've got to do a class there now. I really loved it. And I've attended a workshop there. So it's super fun, and it doesn't make it feel like a normal bakery in the best way. You're just doing something else. You're learning something. And then I also love the transformation back to we're a business by day.
Yeah. The whole space being open really helps with that feeling as well too. I think, you come into the bakery and you can see us working right there on the tables. Of course, there are divisions, to keep everything safe, but you can see everything that we've made and everything that we're making for the next day or, the next couple of days. We're there to answer questions. If you see someone, oh, hey, how's it going? It's, I think it takes the best parts of what I got at the farmer's market, where you see, regular people, you have new people coming in asking questions, and you even get to see, how it's made and get to learn about it too. We often have people coming in and say like, hey, what's that you're making right there? And we'll say, oh, this is our buckwheat pastry, our buckwheat crust that we're making for our quiche and for our our galettes.
Quiche, by the way, that quiche is really
a killer
good.
Quiche.
If they are not sold out, is this more a weekend thing as well?
We actually do it through the week, but we do sell out quite a bit. We're upping our numbers, but we are having a tough time keeping up.
Oh my gosh, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but
no,
quiche
you should.
So good.
It's worth it for the quiche. Yeah, that's definitely a good one. I'm glad you brought that in.
Yeah, you mentioned something else, and it just makes me want to take one more step back. You said you came to Pittsburgh and was thinking about that combination of art and science. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there aren't too many of us here in Pittsburgh. Every once in a while you run into one. But grew up in Rhode Island. Yeah, graduated high school and came to CMU. And my first semester was studying art, visual art, drawing and painting. And I was also taking chemistry classes. Yeah, it was a wild time. And I pretty immediately found that I was falling in love with the studio art program there at CMU. I wasn't sure yet what I wanted to do with it. For a long time, I thought I would be some kind of an illustrator. Even like towards the end of my stay at CMU, was really into like comics and graphic novels.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And now on your side, when you have a day off, are you still into some of that stuff? Are you still doing any like drawing or something relating to that? Or is it like, no, Doug, I'm busy baking bread.
Just lying on my back on the floor. No, I've picked up drawing on and off over the years.
Okay.
I really took a step back from it whenever I started my baking business. It is truly a wonderful creative outlet, being able to bake. It's not exactly the same. With drawing, I have a very on and off relationship with it now. I still love it, and I still revisit it from time to time. I do still love reading graphic novels and kind of being involved in that world to some extent. When I'm not working too, I've started climbing, and I really love doing that.
Like rock climbing?
Like rock climbing,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
I've found that it really helps my body a lot to be able to stretch and move in different ways just from standing and walking and picking up all day. So
wow.
I wasn't expecting it. At first I thought like, oh, I'm going to be exhausted all the time. But
You're not.
I am, but it was going to be that way anyway. Instead, I feel a little bit more like well-rounded, and like at least now I have a physical activity that I love doing, outside of work.
So you've been in Pittsburgh for a while. It sounds like it's home now.
It is. Yeah. I still go back to Rhode Island over the summers. My parents stay in Rhode Island. They have moved to Sarasota, Florida during the winter months.
They are snowbirds.
They are. Yeah. So I'm actually going to visit them in Florida, or I guess by the time this podcast comes out, I'll have visited them. But getting to visit them, every so often. And whenever I go back to Rhode Island, I'll visit my old stomping grounds, but I'm not there too often anymore. Yeah, I really have stayed in Pittsburgh for the most part.
Well, we're happy you're here.
Thank you. Yeah, I've heard so many people on your podcast say this, and it's really true. Like, what an amazing community and a place to live.
I love that. I couldn't agree more, really.
Yeah.
I do want to ask, what was food life like growing up in your family in Rhode Island? Did you cook at an early age, or who cooked for you?
My mom cooked a lot of meals growing up. Both of my parents worked full-time and then some as educators, and still found time to make food special. We have like a family recipe for birthday cakes. And my mom's recipe folder is incredible and very thick. I remember like every Friday night, especially, we would have some kind of like a family dinner usually. I also grew up in a Jewish household, and Friday night is the Sabbath, and my mom would make challah. Yeah, that was really special to me growing up. And food has always felt emotionally connected to me and a way to bring people together. I've always loved sharing food with people.
Sounds like you're in the right lane.
Yeah.
I was wondering, maybe that's where the love of baking and bread making started then?
I think so. Yeah. I think there is something very symbolic about a loaf of bread in many ways. In particular, what I was saying earlier about like, well, if you're making one, you might as well make 10 and just give them out. Even over the pandemic, there was that wonderful, beautiful emergence of sourdough as, this is something that you can give to your neighbors, something that not only will keep you from losing your mind, but, something that you can share with other people.
Yeah. Nourish them in so many different ways.
Exactly. Yeah. And I actually, over the last year, have kind of taken to baking for fun at home again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I wasn't doing that as much with Crustworthy, but I've just started kind of dabbling at home. Every once in a while, I'll get a kick for something.
Chloe, I know we mentioned a moment ago that you're at your 1-year anniversary for the bakery. So I would love to ask, what is ahead in your mind? Do you guys have some new goals or events or anything special coming up?
We are honestly so excited to make more use of our outdoor deck. I think it's one of the features of the bakery that we wish we could use more, throughout the year, but we are in Pittsburgh. And yeah, we have some plans for just making that a more fun space, a more utilized space. We have some ideas about different events that we're going to offer more regularly. None of them are on the calendar yet.
Sure.
So I'm a little hesitant to share exactly what we have in mind, but I would recommend that folks follow us on social media, or we also have a newsletter that people can sign up for through our website. And that's the best way to find out first whenever we have classes available or special events, but we'll definitely be announcing whenever we have more of those events going on as well outside. And aside from that, I will say, we're sorry to say that we're not going to be a part of the Bloomfield market this year, but that is in part due to us just wanting to really focus on the storefront and what we can offer there and like help build the community around that building and that space.
It's part of the growing up process.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot we really loved about that market, but also we really feel confident that this is going to help us provide for our immediate community better.
Yeah. And you're not that far away. So people should still go to the Bloomfield Farmers Market. There's lots of amazing vendors.
Yes.
And then you just take a few blocks up to Penn Avenue and stop at Third Space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Since you mentioned the newsletter, why don't we go ahead and remind folks of your social handles and the website and how they can sign up for the newsletter?
Yes. So thirdspacebakery.com is our website. You can sign up for our newsletter there, I think through our contact page there.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of other links there to sign up for classes, to order a special cake or pastries, anything like that ahead of time. A lot more information about the bakery and the cooperative end. We actually also, anytime that we have job postings, that'll be on there too.
I think I just saw 2.
Yes, we are hiring. Yeah, we are hiring. And our social handles, Third Space PGH for Instagram, Third Space Bakery for Facebook.
Okay. Do you want to give a personal handle if people want to just find and follow you?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It used to be Crustworthy, but now it's just called Still Crusty.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, Chloe. I always have an ending question for our guests. The name of the show is The Pittsburgh Dish. what's the best dish you've eaten this past week?
I was actually inspired by one of your previous episodes from Community Kitchen.
Oh.
And I went to their fish fry.
Oh, yes.
And it was phenomenal. I loved it. It was so good. And honestly, the energy in the room. I mean, I went on the later end of the day and so many people buzzing about, the room was packed with just smiles and fried food and amazing smells. There were bells ringing and, people kind of like yelling out orders, but rounds of applause for the staff. And it just felt so good to be there. And honestly, the fish was incredible. I ate the whole giant sandwich.
It's a gigantic battered haddock, and I have had it as well.
Yes.
Did you have the tartar sauce?
Yes.
It's house made. It is amazing.
I should have ordered more of the tartar sauce, honestly. Yeah, it was so good.
I told them they should probably figure out how to bottle that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I would buy it.
Yeah. Did you or anybody have anything else beyond the fish?
Yes. We ordered the halushki.
Oh, I didn't have that.
That was so good and buttery and the cabbage, all of it was amazing. The fries were also excellent. Me and my partner are always particular about the fries we get from places in Pittsburgh, and their fries were excellent. A+. Yeah.
I had the fries, I had the mac and cheese, and I had the coleslaw.
Ooh,
It was all good. And just to remind our listeners, this is Community Kitchen Pittsburgh, located in Hazelwood, and this is their Lenten fish fry season. It'll go on for a few more weeks up until Easter.
Yeah.
Chloe, it has been such a pleasure getting to know you. And I feel like I've, rounded it out. I got all of the owners now from Third Space. Thank you so much for taking some time and for being on the Pittsburgh Dish.
Doug, thank you so much for having me here. It's been a pleasure.
Up next, do you have a neighborhood restaurant that stops you from buying groceries? Rebecca Hansborough of the 412 shares her place. Hey everybody, we're joined today with Rebecca Hansborough of the 412 on Instagram. I was wondering if you have, I don't know, maybe just like a local neighborhood spot that you just love, that you think needs a little love.
Yes. So Legends Eatery in the north side.
In the north
is
side.
A family-owned Italian restaurant. Me and my fiance go there all the time. It's perfect for date night. There's actually an instance where we were actively walking to the grocery store. We had our giant Ingo bags in our hand. And I was just like, well, what if we just went to the grocery store tomorrow and just went to Legends? And we legit did that. So we went to the restaurant with the grocery bags and folded them and put them underneath the table and had Legends. And that's how good the food is.
It was an easy detour.
I didn't even have to hold a gun to his head. I think I said leg, and he was like, yeah, let's do it. So yeah, definitely a place to go.
Let's talk about some of the dishes you guys love the most. What would be a go-to order?
Go-to for him is definitely going to be chicken parmesan.
And when we say him, this is your husband.
Yes. And I didn't even tell him I was going to be talking about him this much, but he should be used to it by now, right?
Okay. Chicken parm for him.
Yeah, chicken parm for him. I am more of a special girly. So, I love a good special. And it just depends on kind of what they're offering. If I'm not going with a special, they have this kind of pasta, seafood pasta. And kind of this spicy sauce. I'm not even going to try to say what the actual Italian pronunciation
Sometimes
is.
arrabbiata or diavolo.
I think it's diavolo.
Yeah. A
I
shrimp
think it's diavolo.
Yeah.
Yes. It's very good.
Little devil.
Oh my
of a
God.
shrimp. Yeah.
Yes. It's delicious. It's really good.
So
and
good.
then the beans and grains.
Oh, I love a good beans.
I just made a face if you didn't.
Yes.
For people.
The pause is
I had to pretend.
needed.
I forgot that I was on a podcast. I just made a very strong facial expression for those listening. I don't want to say best beans and greens in the city because I've only had a handful. So I feel like that's not fair, but I'm still going to say it because I do think they have really good beans and greens. They traditionally, help me out here, beans and greens are made with
you would do cannellini, a white bean, and escarole is traditional.
Yes.
A lot of places use spinach.
Yes.
too.
So I'm pretty sure they use I don't want to say salad lettuce, but something very similar to that.
Yes.
In addition to the escarole that gives it this really nice
A lightness?
crunch.
Yeah? Okay.
And it's absolutely delicious.
Gosh.
And they don't have, I'm pretty sure they probably use some type of broth of meat, but there's no sausage in it.
Yeah.
Which I've had sometimes with sausage.
Me
I've
too.
sometimes had it with like a banana pepper.
Me too.
It's a very simple.
This is a straightforward
Okay. Beans and greens, and it's absolutely to die for. Like we've joked about just going back to just get that, but we never do. And then another thing that I really love is it's BYOB, which is like really nice.
Yes.
And then you have to remember to bring your own wine glasses though, because they don't have regular ones, and it's always really funny when we go and forget because they just give you like
a water glass. I think that's kind of cute.
I mean, you get healthy pours that way, I guess.
I'm not above it.
But they give you fudge at the end of the meal. They give you fudge, and it's just like I've always wanted to be adopted by an Italian family. For those who don't know me, I'm African American. I've always wanted to be adopted by an Italian family, and so when we go, it just makes me feel like, for those 2 hours that we're eating there, that I got like adopted.
You're part of the family.
Yeah. So yeah.
All right, I got one more question about the fudge.
Okay.
Do they just you don't order it? Do they just bring you out a little piece at the end?
At the end they bring you like a plate of fudge, and you can choose from chocolate or peanut butter, I believe.
I want to go.
And I usually go for the chocolate. Okay. And it's just a really well-rounded meal, and you just feel like satisfied.
Yeah.
And I would say pricing is pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
25, 30, kind of like in that window.
Yeah.
So
it's not going to
it's not going to debt you out, but it is, I think it's reasonably priced for sure.
Well, it sounds delicious.
Yes.
Legends.
Now I want it.
I know. Now I want to go
I'm
too.
like, let's go right now.
We're right before dinner.
Let's take the podcast equipment.
Let's go. All right, Rebecca. Legends on the North Side.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
You can follow Rebecca on Instagram at _41_chew. Where does salsa stand on your hierarchy of favorite condiments? For many nowadays, it's number one. We get a family recipe for salsa piquin by Dustin Boutilier of 77 Club. Hey everybody, we're joined today with Dustin Boutilier of 77 Club. Dustin, last time you and your wife were here, we talked about all of the things you're making in terms of your pizza oven, like the panuzzos, but you mentioned from your family food that you have some Mexican roots. Can you give us a family recipe that you guys might be making at home or something that was really delicious when you were growing up?
Yeah, it's present on every table. It's just a little bowl of salsa.
Oh, I'll take it.
So a salsa that I like to make is a salsa de piquin. So you'll take little piquin peppers, little dry peppers.
These are little tiny red peppers,
tiny
right?
Devils.
Oh, yes.
So salsa piquin, chili de piquin, a little chili de árbol. Mm-hmm. And you toast those until they're fragrant.
Like a dry pan or something?
Yeah, dry pan. You want to taste that little, or smell that little like corny flavor.
Yes.
Take those off. You're going to put under your broiler some, quartered onions, some tomatoes, some garlic, and you're just going to burn everything.
Oh. Yeah. On purpose.
On purpose.
You want a lot of that char.
Yeah, on purpose, on fire, on just fully charred. And you put that all in the blender, just blitz it all together. And the secret to the sauce that really ties it together is just a little bit of fish sauce.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I would never.
It's so delicious.
Okay, so let me just recap that. You've toasted some of those tiny peppers. You've roasted your vegetables under the broiler, nicely burnt. So you get lots of black bits. Mm-hmm. Everything is going in the blender. So the peppers, the veggies, any citrus, any acid going in there?
Oh, of course. Yeah, a little bit of lime.
Okay, a little bit of lime. And then fish sauce. Mm-hmm. If you're making a batch, give us an approximation. Would you say you're putting in a splash?
Splish, splash. Taking a bath.
Not taking a bath.
Yeah,
because it's powerful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, tempt it, Put it in there. Push it to where, maybe you couldn't taste it. Now you are tasting it, then pull back from that.
That's right.
If we're saying we're making 2 cups of salsa, put a teaspoon.
Yeah. Yeah. I would just give that little back note of something umami-ish, right?
It's crazy because you get the smoky citrus. It's like Thai food.
Oh,
you really you hit all of it. It's like my favorite thing. Mm-hmm. And then we'll put that on a panuzzo one day.
Let's do that. Oh my gosh. That's like total fusion in the best way ever.
Hey, same color flag.
Yeah. And just, I guess, salt to taste, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Salt to taste.
All right.
Always.
And it is, I'm not going to say it right. Say it for me again.
Salsa de piquin.
Salsa de piquin.
Yeah, chili piquin.
Sounds so good. Dustin, thanks so much. And thanks for being on the Pittsburgh Dish.
Yeah, thank you.
Check out Dustin and Brittany on Instagram at 77club for their pop-up residencies to snag a panuzzo, and congratulations on their brand new oven. Do you have a recipe? Share it with us. Just visit our website at www.pittsburghdish.com and look for our Share a Recipe form. If you enjoyed the show, consider buying us a coffee for this episode or supporting the show monthly. You can find links to those options at the bottom of our show description. And if you want to follow my own food adventures, you can find me on social media at Doug Cooking. That's our show for this week. Thanks again to all of our guests and contributors, and to Kevin Selecki of Carnegie Accordion Company for providing the music to our show. We'll be back again next week with another fresh episode. Stay tuned.